What's going on, guys? Let's get straight into it. Now, I did talk about yesterday modern sealed investing and kind of pros and cons to that and my experience with it. But I said that we were going to follow up today with a vintage video, and you guys have given me a lot of great topics in the comments section that I'm also going to touch base on. Always feel free to leave your input. Help me improve the channel, help me improve the advice that I'm giving, and help me with content that you'd like to see, topics that you'd like to see covered. I'm all ears as far as that goes. But I did say that we were going to talk about vintage because I've been talking with a lot of fellow collectors, and I would say upper echelon collectors, high-end resellers. And one thing that we are all in agreement on is that this is a good time to be buying vintage Pokemon cards. Okay, the vintage market is amazing right now. It's full of great deals. Could it be headed lower? Similar to the market movement and price movement of modern alt arts and Sun and Moon alt arts. You know, I'm starting to look at Sun and Sun and Moon is very gradually, you know, it's aging very well. And, you know, now if you're looking at Sun and Moon 2018, 2019 to 2024, you're now looking at a, you know, 5-6-year-old set. Now, that's by no means really vintage. I feel like vintage is really more along a decade or longer for a lot of vintage, true vintage cards. It's the same thing with sports cars. Well, with any cars that 20 years into them, they are considered classics, you know, tax-wise and inspection-wise. But I believe that right now, prices could head lower. But right now, we are seeing such an incredible retrace of cards that have been so far out of people's budgets and, you know, out of their realistic collection goals. You may hear Aspen in the background. I do have a 2-year-old toddler, so you are going to hear quite a bit of that on this channel moving forward. Let's just be honest here. You know, I've been collecting a couple things that I've noticed because I'm collecting these things, and so I'm watching the markets constantly. First edition base set. These are the things that I feel qualified to talk on. You know, as I look at other sets and other vintage cards, you know, such as, you know, the Neo generations, and, you know, looking at those sets and looking at first editions, I'll be able to give a better, you know, idea of, you know, should people be buying this stuff based on market prices in the past compared to now. But what I specialize in, what I know is gold stars, crystals, and first editions. That's what I looked at primarily over the last year and a half, 2 years, and that's what I'm looking at and talking about today. And this is unfortunate, you know, because I do think that I probably overpaid on a lot of my gold stars, but you know, we just can't know. Comparing it to eBay isn't exactly the best way to go about it, but eBay does give me an idea with how much stuff has been coming onto the market, and where the auctions are ending slightly lower than what I was willing to pay on items, you know, a couple months or a year back. It tells me that the market is headed south on these particular types of cards. So first editions, crystals, gold stars. Let's go ahead and talk about this. So first editions, right? Okay. The index fund of first editions, if you will, is the first edition Charizard. And I bought a PS5 several years ago, kind of, you know, really during the boom and hype of everything. But I still think I lucked out, and I got it for around $4,000. After tax, you're looking at like $4,300. And right now, you know, just based on the offers that I'm getting, I know the markets are trending lower because if I look at the PSA 10 and PSA 9 pricing, there were, and I was just having this conversation with a fellow collector last night, who has a lot of these cards, you know, high-end grail cards and trophy cards, really incredible collection. I'm not going to disclose who that is, but they were showing me some cool stuff and talking to me about prices, and we were going back and forth, and you know, it's crazy. People were paying up to $70,000 for a PSA 9 first edition Charizard. So, you know, when we look at the prices today, you know, I saw auctions go as low as 17, 18,000. Now, some sellers, you know, and some collectors and flippers are saying that 17,000 is out of sight, out of mind. You're never going to see those prices again. I've always been the first person to say that when we're talking about collectibles here, you know, niche collectibles here, especially higher end stuff, you always have to find a buyer for this stuff. Somebody that's willing to pay these exorbitant prices on trading cards, on cardboard, essentially. And just because the market was at 70,000, it's irrelevant now. Now the prices are well below that. Now the kind of going rate from what sellers are getting back to me on is around $21,000 to $23,000 for a PSA 9 first edition Charizard. Now, you can probably find older cert Charizards, which is what I'm primarily looking for. It's one of my collection dreams is to get a PSA 9, not like some of these other sellers, not a collection of them, not several of them. I just would like to get one PSA 9 first edition Charizard, as well as a first edition Blastoise and first edition Venusaur, because during the boom, I was collecting first edition base, and I created a master set. Now, this master set is comprised of mainly 7s and 6s, and which are very strong grades, by the way, for what I purchased. And I'm kind of glad that I bought these graded cards because, guys, and these are the ones I have left. I have 9 left currently. So there are 16 and base set. So I sold 7 so far. And most of them I was able to break even on. So I'm very happy about that. I feel like I got very, very lucky there because the market got crushed for vintage first edition base set cards. The market got crushed for higher grades like 10s and 9s. But grades like 5s, 6s, and 7s, they're kind of weird. That market's kind of weird. And I would have expected those to kind of really retrace down to me getting half the value back, but I'm still getting decent value on the ones that I'm selling. But the reason I think I made the right decision in going into it and just buying mid-grade level cards, and you could say, well, Ryan, you could have bought raw and you probably would have saved money on that. But I really wanted to know what I was getting into, and this is why grading is very helpful. And regardless of the popularity of grading now and whether people are still wanting to grade their cards, for me, it was a question of I need validation that what I'm buying is in decent condition, right? Am I buying a 7 that's raw, or am I buying a 4 that's raw, right? I don't want to deal with that kind of stress. I'll let other people deal with that kind of stress. I'll let other people take the risks, get the rewards, get the premiums. That's all good, fine, and dandy. For me, I am happy having my graded collection and knowing exactly what I'm getting myself into. So when it comes to my decisions buying these cards, had I bought 9s and 10s, I would be hurting a lot right now in terms of the value really coming down on those cards. But that didn't necessarily happen on these mid-grade level cards. So now, and hopefully this is a good decision. Hopefully I'm not jumping in too soon. Maybe I'm wrong about the vintage market. Maybe vintage market isn't necessarily just undervalued. Maybe it is just trending lower. Maybe it's bearish. I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I don't need to sell anybody on this. I am actively in the works of trying to rebuild my master set first editions in all PSA 9s, similar to my Gold Star collection, similar to my Crystal collection, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But I think this really goes for the entire vintage markets, whether it's first edition, grails, trophies, unlimited cards, even the unlimited Charizard. Okay, let's look at the unlimited Charizard. Even the unlimited Charizard I have sitting in my eBay store for a decent price. And if this was during the boom, it would have already sold. But right now, people are really shopping around. For me, I think right now we are in an accumulation phase. I think that people should be looking at the deals and accepting that this is the market we're in. It's still somewhat, to me, pretty inflated. I think there could be room to run lower, certainly. But I also think in comparison to the prices people were paying a year ago, 2 years ago, the prices right now feel right, okay? I mean, I feel like I'm still saving money. And if you can go above and beyond and even work off of platforms and save even more money buying privately, do it at your own risk. But there is a lot of savings to go around. There's a lot of great deals, and I can't wait to share some of the deals that I've been coming across. I'm really holding it off because there are other topics to cover, and because I want to do a mail day. I want to spread out the mail days. But I've got quite a couple cards to go over that I'm really excited about, and I'm dying to share them with you guys. But we are waiting to do that. I'm doing it very gradually, very slowly. But right now I am rebuilding my entire first edition set. I'm going for all PSA 9s and all of my first edition cards. And I've come to the conclusion that if I can find a good enough deal, I'm going to replace them with PSA 9s. But for all of my cards that are 5s, 6s, and 7s, there are very few first edition base set cards that I feel like I have to have. Alakazam is one of them. I want that in a 9 badly. Mewtwo is one of them. I want that in a 9 badly. Nidoking and Raichu, I would say, even though I'm happy with the grades that I have in these now. By the card, not the grade. If we take a look at this Raichu, for example, this is a PSA 7 Raichu. You guys can see how crispy that hollow is. There's no scratches on this thing. Most of the cards I picked up, I purposefully went for thick stamps. I think that they're going to hold their value a little bit better than the thin stamps. Now, I will still end up buying thin stamps if I can find a good enough deal on them, but I genuinely believe that thick stamp looks better, and that anybody going after a goal of completing first edition base set should go after thick stamps. I don't think I'll be able to go after that goal because they're just rare. They're harder to find, in my opinion. But this Raichu is really strong. If we look at the back of it, it's super, super clean. It could have been an 8. It could have been a 9. You know, I see a lot of weak old cert 9s and old cert 10s, especially with gold stars. I've seen a lot of those go up for auctions. And I really feel like if you can find a good deal for PSA 6, 7, 8, it doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter if I'm collecting 9s. It matters what you think. And even for me, some of these I am not pressed to get rid of because I really don't want to buy a Chansey first edition and a PSA 9. I don't really want to buy a Clefairy first edition PSA 9. I don't really want to buy a Magneton first edition PSA 9. I'm happy with my 7. Same thing with Zapdos. Same thing with Poliwrath. There are certain cards in my first edition base set that, you know, I was very much on the edge of just saying, you know what? I'm going to sell everything in first edition base set. I give up. I'm just going to go for the big 3 and that's it. And then I decided, after looking over all of my mid-level and 8s and 9s and 7s, I realized that, you know what? It's a hodgepodge of grades, but it's what I like. And I collected it on a budget. And I really just want the set to be complete. I don't really care if there's a difference of grades, even though grade uniformity in a collection does look really good. But I say all this to say that the vintage market seems like it's a buyer's market right now. It seems like it's a good time to go after these cards. If you've ever considered chasing first edition base or crystals or gold stars, now I think is the time to do that. There has not been a better time in the last couple of years. And, you know, I used to think that there was really good deals on first edition Charizards prior to 2019, but the first edition Charizard and PSA 9, PSA 10, they have always been expensive. They've really never been cheap, so to speak, unless you were buying back in like 2016, 2017, and even then, when the hobby really wasn't that popular, you were still having to fork up, you know, $600-700 to get a first edition, you know, Venusaur or Blastoise, or with Charizard, a couple grand. So it's always been an expensive card. I don't think the market's ever going to retrace to a point where these cards are just way, way cheaper. The pops are pretty high on base set, even first edition, but they're not high enough to say that these cards are going to really trace back in value. So if you're looking at first edition base, I say go for it, whether it's raw, whether it's graded. I think it's a good time to be looking at these cards now and considering purchase. Now, let's talk about gold stars, okay? Now, as far as gold stars go, you guys know one of my favorite gold stars of all time is the Gold Star Rayquaza. It is just iconic. It's beautiful. I love this card personally, and I like how it looks in this black guard protector inside of the Beckett slab. And then, of course, mine has the a hollow orb right in his mouth. That's one of my favorite things about this particular card. Absolutely gorgeous. That's probably my favorite right there. But we're seeing those pop up on the market. We're seeing a lot of gold stars pop up on the market. I've been meaning to cover this, but lately I am seeing a disturbing high number of gold star Pokemon cards popping up on the market. Some are old, some have been graded, some have been sitting in storage. Card Rush, which is a seller on eBay, we had a little conversation. I was asking about, you know, they unloaded, let me find it. Oh, don't want to drop all these gold stars all over the place. They unloaded the Gold Star Alakazam they unloaded several of these on the market recently, and this is the 7 that I personally got graded and found in a collection buy for like 60 bucks. So this is a very sentimental card to me because regardless of grade, I'm just really happy that I found a gold star in my collecting journey, which has been a short couple of years. I found a gold star in someone's collection and got it graded and got a decent grade back. That just makes me very happy. But this Alakazam, the same card that I'm holding here, 4 of these on top of 2 or 3 others that were on the market, 4 of these just got dumped on the market by Card Rush. And I was asking about, what was the deal with these? And they were like, we just had a bunch of gold stars sitting in storage. So this is a little bit worrisome for me because I've been looking at gold stars. I like gold stars. I wasn't originally all about gold stars. I didn't think I could afford them, nor did I really like the designs that much on them in terms of the price tags. But I was influenced. I did slowly get into them, and slowly they grew on me, mainly with the Rayquaza and this Pikachu, the Gold Star Pikachu. It's just a super tough Pikachu. This card is kind of what really made me want to get into Gold Stars. But we're seeing stuff on the market right now. The Gold Star Mewtwo. This guy, there's one that just popped up. Probstein has an auction for one of these in a PSA 9. I am happy with mine. I will not be getting rid of it anytime soon, but I just thought that was important to note. Gold Star Gyarados, which is a very rare gold star. I'm starting to see several of these cards popping up on the market, and that's a scary thing because I feel like it's pretty undervalued. I feel like it's one of the rarest gold stars with very low pops, both in 9 and 10. But unfortunately, even with the Gold Star Gyarados, I think there's like 4 or 5 of them on the market currently, including one of mine, which I just put up kind of as like a light flex, like, hey, I have a Gold Star Gyarados, which is now looking a lot more common. Metagross, we saw one of these go for auction last week. Now, luckily, in terms of the prices, the Metagross actually held up pretty well. I picked up my Metagross for, I think, $1,100 or $1,150. And mine has a nice little swirl right here. You can barely see it because it's right on the darkest part of the card. It's much easier to see it in person. But anyways, this Metagross went for $12.25 in auction last week, so I was very happy to see that. It showed strength in the gold star market. But it also showed that, these cards are leveling out right now, and it might be a good time to buy because the price movement is sideways. It's not necessarily up, but it's not necessarily trending down despite all the cards popping up on the market. But if you've been looking at gold stars or wanting to embark on the gold star journey, which I have been, right now is kind of a good time with all the supply that's popping up on the market. We could see a lot more supply pop up on the market. This might be a part of a much bigger movement happening in Pokemon, but I love vintage. This is an area that I feel like everyone's always pumping and talking about modern, but the numbers, the populations, the grading, there's so many of these modern cards out there. Even Sun and Moon, which I think is getting closer to a vintage feel, and I really do love the tag team-up cards. The Mimikyu Gengar, I talked about it yesterday. I love that. The Latios, love that. The Tyranitar, love that. I still need a Blastoise Piplup. Absolutely love that card. And there's so much more too. The Celestial Storm, Rainbow Rayquaza, I have that one listed even though I don't really want to sell it. There are so many cards that I love that aren't quite vintage, but I think vintage deserves a little bit more love, and we should be talking about it a little bit more. The Latios is pretty safe. I have not seen Latios popping up on the market at all, so I'm happy about that. This is a very rare gold star, but we can't say the same for Latios. Latios is popping up on the market for very reasonable. There's an auction up right now, and then there's somebody with one listed around $3,000. Maybe you could get an offer around $2,700 or $2,600 for that. But we're seeing those pop up. The Gold Star Kyogre. So I have a Crystal Lugia listed, and I have a Gold Star Kyogre listed. I am starting to build my store up as kind of some higher end vintage grails of mine. Nothing too crazy, but I'm starting to build it up. This one has an absolutely gnarly swirl right here. Love this one in particular. Very happy with it. It is a modern cert, 74 cert. right up in here. So this is more of a modern graded card. I want to try and buy cards that are closer to 6, 7, 8 certs, even though I have a weird thing with 6 certs. For some reason, I just don't like them very much. Yeah, there's been a couple Kyogres. There's one up for auction right now. There's another one that a buddy of mine actually has listed at $1,200, and then I have mine listed a little bit above that, or maybe it's $1,250 and mine's $1,275. But I'm sure you can win an auction. There was one that was won last week for $1,000. So there are some really good deals to be had on some of these cards. And if you're buying them privately, you could probably get it even lower than that, $800 or $900 flat without paying taxes on it. And then Groudon. Groudon is one that is listed this week. So if you are looking at gold stars and you really like Groudon like I do, this is a good time to be picking up Groudon. The auction right now, I do believe, is around like $800 or $900 right now. I expect that to go more around $1,200, but it'll be interesting to see where that auction ends up for the Gold Star Groudon. Both Groudon, Kyogre, and Metagross just feel underrated. They look really good together. That's kind of the Delta Species trio. Also, I want to point out that when you buy items in the vault, you can't change the title unless you're on a web browser, and you have to actually submit a title change, which is annoying, but I'm glad they allow it, because if you buy and send a card to the vault, at first it didn't allow you to change anything, which could be an issue. For me, my issue was my Kyogre. My Kyogre in the listing title did not have Gold Star in it, so I had to delist it. Then I had to submit a title revision, which these things take time and basically take opportunities away from buyers to buy my cards. So that kind of sucked. But I'm glad that the eBay vault is working on ways that we can update and change listings from previous sellers that didn't have the proper title, because keywords and search phrases are very, very important when it comes to selling cards. For Gold Stars, I know I always just look up Gold Star PSA 9. So if it doesn't have Gold Star in it, I am not going to see it if it's a Gold Star listed. I'm not going to look up the set and number. I'm never going to do that. I'm always primarily going to just look up Gold Star. Guys, quiet. Dogs barking in the back. Toddler running around. This is very typical. Okay. Next up, we've got a Flareon here. I have not seen really any Flareons popping up for under 1,000. So Flareon's a weird one. I'm not sure if this one's about to move up in price. The hollow pattern on mine isn't really popping off right now. I want to say it's because most of the card is just taken up by the actual Pokemon itself, so it doesn't show much of the hollow. It looks better in person, but again, it's harder to show the stuff on camera. Jolteon, again, any of the Eevee evolutions, they're underrated. They're not very expensive. This one has a nice little swirl between his front legs. But any of the evolutions right now, I feel like I'm not seeing a lot of those get listed. I think they're probably each worth around $600 or $700, especially in this market, but people have them listed for 1,000. Again, not much to report there. Haven't seen a lot of the Eevee evolutions. There is 2 Espeon Gold Stars. Very rare, very sought after, very hard to find. Those are both on eBay right now. So, you know, I'm just going to be frank, I'm seeing more Gold Stars than I've ever seen. In the history of me collecting Gold Stars, I've never seen so many pop up onto the market, and not have buyers for them immediately. The Reggies, I haven't seen a Registeel in a minute. But Registeel, I think is going for around 600. Regice, there's 2 listed, I think around 850, but they need to find buyers. The Reggies, I feel like just don't get a lot of love. There's a Regirock right now listed for 700 and another listed for 750, I think. And at 700, I think it's a decent deal, but I would try and get these for closer to 600. Not that I did, but I think that's a price you would probably want to pay. And then last but not least, the Gold Star Dogs. The Gold Star Dogs, they're pretty much always on the market, but I think, you know, there will come a time where we don't see the Gold Star Dogs pop up onto the market as much, and I think the price point of 300, which is where all 3 of them are at, is going to change to around 400, maybe 450, and that's where the Gold Star Legendary Dogs are going to start creeping up in price. So if you like the Legendary Dogs, for me personally, the Raikou is my favorite. I just think he looks really awesome. I think the background's awesome. I think the lightning around him is awesome. And then comes the Entei. And then last for me is the Suicune. I'm just not a big fan of the Suicune artwork for the Gold Stars. But if these are what you're considering, this is a great way to start your Gold Star collection. Oh, and that just became a PSA 8. Okay, let's stack these back up. And we are getting closer to the finish line on the Gold Star journey. Okay, put these back in here. And then last but not least, the Rayquaza. I've been seeing quite a lot of Rayquazas getting listed. It feels like I don't know what is going on. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm seeing all these Gold Stars get listed. But it might not be great for me, even though it would be great to buy some more inventory for my store. Like I said, I think this is an accumulation phase for sellers and people wanting to get into the next level of selling and they want to buy high-end cards. I think this is a good time to be accumulating first edition base, Gold Stars. Yeah, it's not great for me, but I also don't think the market is going to absolutely tank in any way, shape, or form. I think people are attached to these cards. They've already paid an arm and a leg for them. They're not just going to take a loss just because the market dips a little bit. But you, as a buyer, can take advantage of that market dip, and you can get some of these cards while the price movement is a little bit sideways. I think it's a great time to be buying these cards. But again, this is not me trying to sell you on anything. If you like Gold Stars, if you've thought about it, if you've even been like remotely interested in trying to build a collection of Gold Stars or crystals or first edition base, like these have become some of my favorite cards to go after and collect. Even if I collect them all, I'm still probably going to keep looking at them to purchase and resell down the road as a collection, hold, or as an investment piece. And again, this goes into talking about modern sealed product. It takes up a ton of space. It's a lot of storage. And there are so many plays that you can make within the vintage world. And they don't have to be these type of plays. It can be base set Charizard, base set Blastoise, base set Venusaur, unlimited. You can find those. You can find great deals on Shadowless too. Like there are so many awesome deals out there. All of the Neo generations, Neo first editions. While I don't feel really qualified to talk on those, I do have a couple of Shinings, and I guess we'll go ahead. I didn't have those out, but we'll go ahead and talk about those. These Shinings, I am going to talk about the stuff that I have experience with and I own. The Shinings, I think, are a really good buy right now. Now, I'm considering getting rid of my Unlimiteds and going after first editions and 9s. That time has not come yet. I am very excited to embark on that once I finish these other goals. At this point, it's probably going to be next year. But the Shining Tyranitar first edition, prices have come down on that guy quite a bit from the highs of the bubble. Mewtwo, same thing. Charizard, same thing. Pretty much any Charizards, any Grail Charizards in the last 2 years have started to retrace and come down on price, and they could be ready to start moving back up again, which is why it's important to look at all of these different types of cards. If you're remotely interested in them, I think now is a really good time to get into it, and I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Do you guys think that the vintage market is going to be falling even more? Am I just going to have to absorb losses here, or is this kind of what I'm saying it is? Maybe a chance for people to take up an opportunity to enhance their collection, buy these cards that they feel like they haven't been able to afford in the past. I'm really excited going after first edition base just because I know that it is such a great value in comparison to what these cards were going for 2 years ago. I mean, during the boom, during the bubble, we had the most inflated prices we've ever had, and you know, to think that you could get a first edition Charizard for a third or a quarter or a fifth of the price that they were during that bubble is amazing to me. And I'm taking full advantage of it. I know that it's a tough venture. I know that I might have to let go of other things, sell other things, take a month of my, paychecks to pay off something extravagant. I understand that. Maybe even 2 months. I understand the sacrifices that I would have to make some of these cards happen. It's the same reason that I bought the Crystal Zard. The price was right. I won the auction. I really wanted one. And the market, it's a good time as ever to buy these cards. Now, I might be wrong on that. I don't think so, given the scarcity of a lot of these cards, especially in a PSA 10, especially if they're semi-new certs, which a lot of mine are not. But I don't know. I think that there's crazy value out there right now, and that people should be looking to take advantage of that. Lastly, let's go over the crystals, the cards that I have behind me. My Crystal Zard, the Crystal Lugia, which I think is severely undervalued. The Crystal Nidoking, severely undervalued. Crobat, undervalued. And then we've got Ho-Oh over here, which Ho-Oh, I'm not that big of a fan of. And then I've got the three that I have in hand here, the Kabutops, the Golem, and the Kingdra. Now I still need the Crystal Celebi. I've got quite a lot of goals I'm going after, which is going to make this difficult, but I will achieve them. A lot of things in life are about saying you're going to do it, having discipline, and manifesting these things. I will have the collection that I want. I don't know when I'll have it, but I will have it eventually. And that's the same thing I would recommend you guys think. Don't ever think that, like, I just can't afford a card like that. Like, that card's just out of reach. Nothing is out of reach if you put your head down and you really try and get after it, and you're willing to give up other things and make other sacrifices. For me, the first edition Charizard in a PSA 9 is probably the biggest thing that I'll go after in this year, maybe even next year. I don't know. But I would definitely be willing to liquidate a large portion of my collection to go after that one card. And I would be totally fine with it. I may even, we're going to open a heavy base set unlimited pack once I hit 5,000 subscribers. And I'll keep another one reserved for 10,000 subscribers, maybe even 7,500 subscribers. But I'm also considering selling my heavy base unlimited packs. So you might see those on eBay in the coming months. I'm considering selling those because I don't know what's inside those packs. I really don't want to risk it for unlimited. And furthermore, on top of that, if I were to sell those heavy packs at $500 a pack, that would seriously help go towards a goal like a first edition Charizard. Now, if you guys remember, I also have my first edition Charizard still in a PSA 5. I still have my 5. It's a thick stamp. And I'm going to probably have to send this to the vault to get paid for it. But yeah, I think it's a good time to buy this stuff. Hopefully I can put that Charizard, maybe some heavy packs towards a first edition 9. But that's all I got for you guys today. Peace out. I think it's a great time to be buying these cards. And I just wanted to share a little bit of vintage love. Anyways, have a great day. Let me know what you think about the vintage market and if it's a good time to be buying these cards.